Okay, I'm going to do a little painting demonstration for the class just to show you how I will be painting in black and white. Not really working with the grays right now. So this is a photograph of a Michelangelo sculpture, and I'm going to set this up by going to Select All in Photoshop. Select All, Marching Ants appears, Edit Copy. I'm going to use this to create my new document. Say OK. This file is the exact same size as the other document, so I am right-handed, so I want to make sure that I can see the Michelangelo piece. The untitled file here is the copy. So with the Michelangelo visible, I'm going to go to Window, Arrange, to a Vertical. So we now have two screens. Let me match everything up. Window, Arrange, Match All. So now both windows are the exact same size. I'm going to set up my hand tool so that all windows will be scrolling when I hold down the space bar. Then I select the zoom tool, and then I will make sure that all windows are zoomed when I use the zoom tool. Let me deselect this. Command D. To zoom out is space, Option, click, click. That's smaller. B for brush. D for default color scheme. Let me zoom in on this a little bit more. And I'm just going to put down some tones first just to get started. I'm painting with a very simple brush right now, and it is 100% black. Press 6 for 60%. Press 4 for 40%. 2 for 20. 1 for 10. So I have enough tones here for me to use to base my painting on the Michelangelo photograph of Michelangelo's sculpture. Press B for brush. Hold down the Option key to call out my eyedrop tool. I'm sampling a color. I'm painting at 10% still, so let me go to about 80%. And what I'm really doing here is I'm just blocking in a couple of tones. Squinting my eye at this particular section here. Trying to match the overall shapes of what I see. Sample, paint, sample, paint. And without getting too far into the details, I'm basically squinting my eye at what I see on the left-hand side over here, looking for the overall shapes inside the composition. No details. I actually don't even need this anymore. Sample, paint, sample, paint. Choose a lighter color. Start to block in an overall tone for what happens here. Let me zoom in on that a little bit more. Space, Command, click. So then I can see the overall proportions of the sculpture with my painting, and sample this color. And I'm really just focusing on the drawing aspect of it. And I had a student had asked me before how he is actually able to do the blending exercise, but he was not able to bring that blending, the knowledge into painting from a figure. I was asking for some advice. The basic idea here is that I have the opacity set to not 100%, right now it's 80% because I was getting a little impatient, but I could press 7 to let my opacity become 70%. That gives me enough of a flexibility so I can sample a color, and when I paint it I can still see the tone underneath it. Let me undo that. So with that I can actually start making it a tone by sampling a color and then painting it, knowing that the color underneath is still going to be there, partially. And with that, you could just sort of use this information pretty quickly block in the form of what you see, without getting into too much detail. Make a little bit larger brush. When you see that red dot, it's me holding down the control and the option key. Move to the right to make the brushes larger, move to the left to make the brushes smaller. Hold down the space bar, move it up a little bit higher. Sample. So I'm going to start to work on a transition between the shadow of the hood and the actual head itself. So I'm going to sample this color and paint in that middle tone, sample that new color here and paint that. Somewhere in there is a good line. Sample paint. And when I paint this way, I'm really not even thinking about sampling and painting. I'm getting to sort of like a stream of consciousness. Like a state of mind where you're just sort of looking and not really even thinking. So I see that my proportions might be a little bit off. My drawing is a little bit off actually. And one of the nice things about painting in Photoshop is that there is a lot of flexibility. So if this had been a painting on canvas, I would need to sort of wipe this down to move it, because I can see now that the angle of the head here is wrong, because there is more of a tilt. So I'm going to correct that right now by using a lasso tool. Press L for lasso, make a selection of his head, and I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. I'm going to tilt it also. Now if I do a straight Command T, I'll be cutting a hole out. So instead of doing Command T, I'm going to go to the main menu, Edit, Free Transform, but I'm going to hold down the Option key at the same time. So it'll be Command Option T. And that gives me the free transform box, just like before, but I'm doing a free transform on a copy of the file. So that means that I can actually take this head and tilt it to be a little bit more along the lines of the Michelangelo statue. Make it a little bit smaller, tad bit smaller still, and then press Return to accept it. Command D deselects it. I'm back to drawing. Let me zoom in on that, see how it lines up. That's pretty good. B for brush, back to painting. So obviously this is really, really sloppy. I will eventually work on the details to make it more refined, but you can't move too quickly. The tendency for many students when they're learning how to paint is that they want to add in the details. And it takes a real discipline to hold back on that information. Because if you add the details too quickly and the substructure is not quite there yet, I use the analogy of it's as if you're building a skyscraper on top of foundation that has not fully dried yet. So that's the basic idea. The space bar calls up the hand tool. I'm able to scale it up. Space, option, click to zoom out a little bit more. I'll go to 50% color, choose a larger brush, just start working on some of these tones. So as I'm zooming out and using the space bar to move the head around, the proportions seem to be pretty accurate. I'm pretty happy with that. This thing comes down over here. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Space, option, click, zoom up. Okay, let me work on some of the details of the face because I'm kind of ready for that now. Example, this color here, with the option key, drop in a shape for the eye. Can't go too fast. Work on the tone for the shadow, just below the brow. Sample paint. Work on this transitional tone over here. Tighten that line. Zoom in a little bit more. That's a little bit too much. Right there. There's a little bit of a cheekbone in here. He has a little bit of a beard. Nostril. Sample that color here. Working the transitional tone in here to pull up the nose. Make this color a tad bit dark. I'm going to sample another color over there. Just working the shadow a little bit more. Not too much. Let's zoom in on that. Frown line over here. The light for the nose. Shadow line. And then the edge of the hood. Let's zoom out and see what this looks like. I think I always shot this thing. But the beard comes out a little bit more here. And then it gets darker.